Dorchester County Councilwoman Harriet Holman is now a Republican candidate for South Carolina House District 102, which covers portions of Berkeley and Dorchester counties. She tells me why she's running for this seat for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook.
Dorchester County Councilwoman Harriet Holman, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you so very much for having me on this morning.
Yes, ma'am. You know, the last time I spoke with you was back in June of 2022, right around when my grandmother passed. At the time, you were running for re-election for Dorchester County Council. Of course, now you are in that position and serve the District 1 area of that particular county. Now, I understand that you're running for South Carolina State Senate, State House, District Seat 102, which covers portions of Berkeley and Dorchester counties. So tell me, Councilwoman, what got you from Dorchester County Council to now saying, hey, I want to run for the State House?
Well, that's an interesting question, Quintin. One of the main reasons that I decided to run for this seat is because my constituents kept coming to me asking me to run because they felt like the incumbent was not representing their values as a representative right now. So I took on that challenge to run for House Seat 102.
And I know you face current State Representative Joe Jefferson in the fall, and I'll hope to get him on Quintin's Close-Ups as well. But tell me, what values do you believe the constituents are actually missing from House District 102?
Well, one of the main things when I said that they felt like their values were not being represented is that one of the things is that a lot of my constituents and myself, being Christians, we do not believe that men should be allowed to compete in women's sports. That was one of the main issues that individuals brought up to me. And that's one of the things that on the Democrat side, and personally, I believe that Joe has not voted against that. So when you don't vote against something, you're voting for it. So that was one of the main issues when I first got started in this race, is that the Christian values of not allowing men to compete in women's sports was one of the main reasons that people wanted me to get involved, because they knew that I would vote against a man being competitive against a woman in sports.
In sports. Now, in your particular district, Councilwoman Holman, how many people on a sports level, how many of those people are actually transgendered?
Well, I don't know that number. I really don't. But, you know, it doesn't, to me, people lifestyles are their lifestyles, and that's an individual choice. But when it comes to competing in women's sports, men should compete with men and women should compete against women.
Is there any type of documentation that that's actually happening right now in your district?
Not in my district. Okay. No, not in my district. But as a state representative, I'll be representing for the state. So.
Yes, ma'am. Now, let me ask you this then. Should a bill be addressed to allow cisgender guys to compete against cisgender women?
That's a good question. And before I would have to do some research on that one.
Okay.
But I just know that the makeup of a woman is the makeup of a woman, and the makeup of a man is different. And I just know when it comes to specifically a woman and a man, they should compete separately.
Now, Councilwoman, I thought about this when you were talking about this earlier, but do you believe it is wrong to ban transgender girls from competing against boys in middle school and high school sports, yet still allow cisgender boys and cisgender girls to actually compete against each other?
Well, Quintin, once again, that's a good question. But I still stand on just the fact that the woman should compete against women and men should compete against men.
Yes, ma'am. And how many of those people right now are you actually hearing about that from in your district?
Well, it was just when I first got started to run, that was one of the main, issues that people were bringing up to me, because they wanted someone that had Christian values. And like I said, people are people. I am not discriminating against individuals. They live their lifestyles. Sure. That is an individual choice. But when it comes to the physical fitness of a woman and a man, they cannot compete against the same. We're built totally different.
And when it comes to your district, actually, obviously, Councilwoman, how do you actually make House District 102 competitive today so that South Carolina can be better tomorrow?
Well, one of the things that one of the things that you do know is that the District 1 and District 2, District 1 and House District 102 are kind of the same. Just I add more from the Berkeley County side. However, we have growth. We want to make sure that we have controlled growth. We want to make sure that at the state level that we give the county councils what they need to do the growth properly by providing funds to them so that they can continue to make roads better for this area. And then it's up to the county to make sure that the infrastructure is there and ready when we start building certain things in certain areas. And so those are the things that I want to put my hands on to make it better in District 102.
So when you look at 102 right now, Councilwoman, what are some of those things that you want to build right now? And how much funding do you actually need to make that happen from an infrastructure standpoint?
Well, as far as the funding, I'm not sure how much they need. Remember, I'm not in the House just yet, but I am aspiring to get there.
Like you told me.
Yeah. So one of the things that I do know that when I get to the House, I will sit down with the other legislatures and whatever that bill looks like as far as to make sure that these districts are properly funded, then that's what it'll look like, and I will vote for it. We want to make sure that the districts are at an advantage, to make sure that the roads are properly taken care of. Because that's one of the main things that I'm hearing about also is the roads. So I want to make sure that that part of the infrastructure, that there's enough funding for that. And bridges. Yes, also, bridges is something that we need to make sure that we take care of for the safety of our constituents. And I want to make sure that we, make sure that our vets are also taken care of. That's one of my passions as well as veterans in the District 102. I've already started workshops in Dorchester County. We do workshops, so we ask that the veteran bring their spouse so that the spouse can totally understand the benefits that are there for the veteran. Because one of the things that I've seen, Quintin, I've seen a veteran leave this world, and his wife or his spouse that's left behind does not understand how to navigate the system or the benefits that she was supposed to receive. And so I've been called in on several occasions when wives have lost their spouses, and a lot of times it's too late. And I want to make sure that we do preventive maintenance with our veterans to make sure that the spouses and the veterans and their children are the most educated individuals on veteran affairs in the state of South Carolina while I'm in office. And I'm already doing it now. Just want to make that footprint a lot larger.
And Councilwoman, when it comes to House District 102, particularly in portions of Berkeley and Dorchester County, what exactly are these veterans missing and what benefits do they need now?
Well, some of the things they're missing is a lot of times veterans do their paperwork and it's not done properly. So sometimes you hear veterans say it takes them years to get their benefits. It should not take a veteran 10 years or 20 years to receive the benefits that he has earned. I always tell people it takes a person 20 years to retire from a job. It should not take you 20 years to receive the benefits for a job that you have already done. So in that case, I want to make sure that veterans know the proper way to fill out the claim paperwork so that it will not keep getting kicked back. And so I want to work with that. Veterans and their benefits are important. And I want them to receive the benefits that they have earned from protecting this country. I do not want a veteran to pass away and their spouse did not understand the process. And so now all the little benefits that he may have been getting die with him. We cannot afford that. We want to ensure that the veterans are protected and that they're educated. And that is what I'm about, educating the veterans.
And when it comes to your district, Councilwoman, how many veterans are there currently?
Thousands. There are thousands of veterans in my district. And what I've done is those veterans, everywhere I go, I tell them about the workshop and those veterans are actually coming in to the workshops, and they are thanking Dorchester County for putting this workshop on once a month. One is done in Somerville 1 month, and the next one is done in the western end of the county.
Wow. Do you see more veterans heading into the western end of the county versus Somerville?
Well, I see growth moving down to the western end of the county. Growth is coming everywhere, and in the rural areas,
Oh, yes.
people are moving to the rural area. They want a little bit more space.
Yes.
And sometimes that may be the Asian population that want a little bit more space. They don't want the hustle bustle, the fast, fast pace. So they move down to the other area.
Wow. So since the time you've been on council, and that's been 2018, how many people have actually done that?
Well, let me go back to one question, Quintin.
Yes, ma'am.
You asked me how many veterans were in Dorchester County, and as of 2022, about 345,000 veterans was in the state.
Yes, ma'am.
South Carolina.
Wow. And
So-
with that, yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Oh, no worries. And with that group, Councilwoman, how many more veterans do you foresee coming into your district?
Oh, I want lots and lots of more veterans to come into this district
Yes,
and into the state of South Carolina. Because you know what my goal is? That South Carolina is the best place that a veteran can live. And especially in Berkeley County and in Dorchester County. They are great neighbors.
Yeah, great. Yeah, absolutely. Great counties indeed. So, Councilwoman, let me ask you this. How can you actually grow House District 102 with smart growth?
Well, they're already growing. And they already, I think they're doing it pretty well. They are doing the growth. They're managing the growth. They're controlling it. So I think they are doing an excellent job as we speak today, as they're growing that area. But one of the things that we just have to make sure is that the roads are properly maintained during the growth. And a lot of times people get real frustrated with the backed up traffic, but that is what happens when you have growth. But growth is a good thing if you control it, because growth brings jobs where people can stay in their own community and work and not to go so far.
Well, okay then. Well, how many jobs do you need right now currently in House District 102?
We need to have several any vacancy that's out there needs to be filled. And so I don't know how many vacancies we have, but I know the state of South Carolina does have a large amount of vacancies, because everywhere I go, I see signs saying help wanted, help wanted. So we need to make sure that we have people to fill those positions.
Now, you talked earlier, obviously, Councilwoman, about those roads and bridges. So what 10-year plan would you actually submit to the Department of Transportation to correct the backlog of maintenance and actually fix roads in your district?
Okay, so we're already working on roads in my district right now, and we have a comprehensive plan as far as the growth goes. And when we look at the growth, we make sure that we look at the roads as well. So, and the comprehensive plan only goes out, I think, is 7 years. It's a 7-year plan,
Right?
Or maybe a 10-year plan. But the counties are already looking at that as they prepare for the growth. They look at the roads and how they're going to fix the roads, just as they look at everything, every other piece of the growth.
In your district, what roads can actually be widened right now to help alleviate that traffic?
Well, we are currently widening 78. Highway 78 is being widened right now as you speak. And so, and we also have several other roads that's going to be widened. But we're going to fix those roads until they get wide. Like we have a road called Wire Road that we're always patching and making sure that we fix. But in the future, it will be paved over again. And that's actually a state road as well. We have state roads that we try to patch until we get the state to get there to fix them. But we also have Highway 176 in Berkeley that we're doing work on as well. So there are several roads that we're widening.
So in the meantime, until the state gets to, obviously, these road projects, how many roads are left that needed to be paved right now in 102?
In House 102?
Yes, ma'am.
How many roads that need to be paved? Well, I would have to really do some more research on that one. But I would say every road that's not paved needs to be paved. Because I think about the children that are traveling these roads, and if we have potholes on these roads, people can easily lose control of their vehicle and injure themselves. And I don't want people continuing to have these front end problems because they're hitting potholes and having to put in to get a claim to get their front end repaired. All of that money could be going to fixing the road. And so we have several roads that need to be wide, several roads that need to be paved. And I would say as soon as I get to the State House, I'll be working on making sure that the funds are available to get back to the county so they can pave the county roads, as well as working with the state to pave the state roads.
And I know obviously Dorchester County pays a lot of the state roads that you mentioned. So are you all actually in the end, Councilwoman, I shouldn't say looking, but are you all requesting that the state reimburse you all for the cost of paving these roads?
No, we have not requested that they reimburse us. No, we have not requested that.
Now, when you do go to Columbia, Councilwoman,
let me just say this. We did a penny tax.
Oh, yes.
And so the penny tax covers the cost of the roads.
Yes, ma'am, that's exactly right. And now, Councilwoman, let me ask you this. How would you actually create a permanent funding source, say, for maintenance and actually road capacity in your district?
Say that one more time, Quintin.
Yes, ma'am. How would you actually create a permanent funding source for maintenance and actually road capacity in your district 102?
Let me think. How would I do that? Well, I would bring all the people together, and we would sit down and we would come up with a plan for number one. I mean, I don't have all the answers. I have a lot of answers. I do. Yes. But I know we're working with the legislatures that we would be able to find a solution so that we can continue to maintain these roads. And so we just need to make sure that there's funding available when needed. And one of the things, if we continue to keep the roads maintained, it won't cost so much at one time to do it if we keep them maintained all year long.
Well, let me ask you, for instance, some of the roads you just mentioned just recently, and the road also, how much is that costing you all to just continue to maintain versus?
Well, I think to pave a road costs about $1 million for 1 mile. So it's costing us. It doesn't cost us very much to patch the road because we do that ourselves. So we do that in house. So it doesn't cost as much to patch a road, but it gets to be very expensive to maintain a mile of road or to pave a mile of road. Wow. That is why it is important that the roads are maintained all year long, and not have to be done at one time, because when it's done at one time, it is very expensive to all of us.
Now, you obviously talk about costs and what's going on in the rural areas, and I want to go back to the rural areas because obviously another big issue is access to internet. Should the state of South Carolina, in your opinion, Councilwoman, make obviously internet a utility?
I don't know if it should be a utility or not, but I do know we found a problem when we had the COVID-19, that there was a problem with the kids not being able to do their homework or do school on internet while they were out of school. And so there have been some programs that have been put in place to ensure that every household, if they were at a certain income, would receive internet at a discount price. So that program has been in place for a few years now. And I know that program was coming to an end, but there also have been more funding that has been found to keep that program in place. So I do believe that the internet is very important to the rural area, and that every household should have it if they have children, because it's a gateway to children in the rural area seeing other places. It is also very good for elderly that possibly cannot get to a doctor, can do they can call their doctors on the phone.
Oh, yes.
Through the internet. Also, people can do job applications. It is just so many good reasons that every household really should have internet, if possible. But it needs to be at a cost that is affordable, because in a rural area, we do have individuals that cannot afford to pay that extra for internet.
And as you know, I just spoke with Councilman Bill Hearn last week for Quintin, and he told me about MUSC coming to St. George soon.
Oh, yes, that we have been working that for a few years now. We finally have a contract that should be signed very soon with MUSC coming to St. George. And that is going to help the individuals so much. And MUSC is coming in. They'll be open from like 9 to 5, but they are going to increase their hours as we grow. So it is really good that we're getting that service now. And they're going to grow with the rural area.
So, I'm embarrassed to say this, but I've known St. George for a long time, but never been there. But
like one would say, what?
I mean, I pass through Dorchester County all the time.
Well,
I'm traveling.
I'm inviting you down to St. George.
Yes.
St. George, have you been to Harleyville?
No, just passing through on my way to Orangeburg.
Okay, well, I need to get you down to Harleyville and to St. George.
Yes.
And we need to do this interview down there on the ground so that you can meet some of the people, understand what their concerns are, as well as me relating them to you.
Yes,
but I need you to look in those people's faces and hear their concerns. I think it'll make you have a whole different outlook on the rural area.
Absolutely. And that brings me to my next question, Councilwoman. So with that group, how many people are currently in St. George, and how many people do you anticipate moving there as a result of MUSC and all these other businesses coming?
Well, the amount of people having St. George is a small number. I'll get that number for you in just a second. But my district is 23,000 people in District 1.
Wow.
That's what I have.
Right.
I anticipate we have several subdivisions that are being built. And so I anticipate that we're going to have a few thousand in the increase within the next 2 years, 2 to 3 years. So as the increase grows, I think we have 800 homes coming in Harleyville area. We have about 300 homes coming in St. George. And then there are a few more subdivisions. They're much smaller. We're going to need MUSC there. And they're going to, like I said, grow with us. So they're probably increasing their hours as we get more individuals down there in that area.
Okay, 800 homes, Councilwoman. So let me ask you this. How many of those actually are affordable homes versus, say, workforce housing?
Well, right now, I don't know if the builder has identified that because they just got it passed that they're going to be able to build the homes. So I go back and I find out from our Harleyville mayor because those houses are in Harleyville. So I would check with the mayor to see how many, would be affordable houses, how many be workforce houses. But right now the development is just getting approved, so they haven't even built a house yet.
Wow. Now, okay, what's more important for House District 102, Councilwoman? Is it building new homes and commercial space, or actually rehabbing, expanding, and better utilizing the existing homes?
It's a little bit of all. It's a little bit of all of that. It takes all of that you just mentioned in order to have a successful community, because you have different people from different walks of life that and different income. So we need every bit of that to rehab some houses, to build new houses, and to bring businesses into the community.
Now, how many of those businesses do you hope to bring in will be actually minority owned?
Well, any individual can bring a business to these areas. So it does. I don't have to put a number on that. I just say if a person wants to come into the community, they want to put a business there, and they meet, the financial obligations to do it. We're not putting a restriction on who can bring a business there or not. Maybe what type of business, but the business itself. And don't come back with a question on me on that one. I saw your eyes going. I saw your mind going. But what I'm saying is that, if a person want to bring a business and they meet their zoning and they meet all the different codes, then Dorchester County, Berkeley County has open arms. So I'm not going to say, we need to have 10 minority buildings. No, I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say any business person that wants to bring a business to the area should be able to bring a business to the area. And like a rising tide, lifts this, everybody within it. So, and that's what Berkeley County and Dorchester County are. They're open arms, and they welcome all people.
Oh yes, and here on the peninsula where I grew up here in downtown Charleston for many, many years. But let me ask you, I know, for instance, they just opened, the city of Charleston just opened an incubator space over there with the affordable apartments for James Lewis Apartments right there on Hanover Street. Do you want to bring something like that to your district?
Well, I would have to, what I would do is I would talk with the individuals like the supervisors, and I would talk with the county administrators, and I would talk to the legislatures to see, does that actually fit in this district? I'm not the person that make that decision.
Right.
But those decisions are made at county level. And so, but I will work with everyone within Berkeley County and Dorchester County to bring, and other representatives to bring housing, businesses into the area.
So what type of housing do you actually need for your district, and what type of business do you actually need for your district?
Well, we need all different types of housing. As you said earlier, affordable housing, regular housing. We need, like I said, we have all different types of level of income in our area. And so we need houses for all of them. So, and the businesses, we need businesses that's going to allow people within the area to get jobs there. So that's what we want: small, medium, and large businesses. We need all of them.
And this might be a redundant question, Councilwoman, but where in the district do you actually identify and also develop those unique characteristics, that is, when it comes to residential, commercial, and mixed use?
Well, zoning takes care of that. Zoning takes care of all of that. Person zone, the zoning is voted on, and once the zoning is passed, that's where you would put different mixed use buildings. So it depends on the zoning.
Yes, ma'am. Now, how should Berkeley and Dorchester County actually create a dedicated funding stream for attainable housing development through zoning and those other planning tools?
And say that one more time.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry, it's a little windy out here. But how should Berkeley County and Dorchester County actually create a dedicated funding stream for attainable housing development through zoning and other planning tools?
Well, I would have to get once again with the administrators of both of those counties, because when you get to the state level, you're doing policies. But I would get with both of them, and I will work with them and offer whatever assistance I can offer to make sure that this is done correctly. Make sure that we just take care of the individuals that need to come into the area. But I would get with administrators.
Yes, ma'am. And so I know you talked a lot about the incomes. So what exactly is the regional income for House District 102?
The regional income, Quintin, I hate to say this.
No,
once again, I would have to look that up for the regional income. But I have rural area, and typically I know that some of the incomes in rural area is, in the 20,000s in the rural area, unfortunately. Yeah. And so those incomes can be made up of very senior individuals, and those could be retirement incomes, but it's made up of a vast different amounts of income throughout the area.
And I know you want to bring a lot of jobs and a lot of businesses and housing to your district. So what current public-private partnerships, Councilwoman, would you be in favor for as far as expanding infrastructure in your district?
Oh, once again, I would get with the administrators, because once again, when I get to the state level, I would be doing policy and laws, things like that at the state level. So I would have to talk with the administrators and see what type of partnerships that they would want to have to bring into their areas.
And what are those current partnerships currently?
Well, on Dorchester County, we are working with the partnership. We partnership with different companies. We partnership. Let me go back in my notes and see exactly who we partnership with.
Yes,
but
ma'am.
you go and ask me the next question.
Yes, ma'am. Let me turn over to some developing news, obviously from the State House, as you know, the medical marijuana bill. Mm-hmm. I know you've kept up with that particular news earlier this year. So let me ask you this, Councilwoman: when it comes to that particular bill, why do you think the state didn't call this bill a cannabis bill?
Because this bill is a bill that the medicine itself would be in a pill form, it'd be in a liquid form. So it's changed, the form of the way the medicine is taken. It becomes a medicine, a medication. And so, and I do think that it's needed. I would vote yes for the bill, because we have a lot of people that can benefit from this bill. People that have epilepsy, people that have cancer, have chronic illnesses. All those individuals can benefit from that bill. And so it would be something really good that the legislatures could pass that would help so many people in the state of South Carolina.
And I want to get back to that in just a second, but should medical marijuana require a prescription from a medical doctor and actually filled by a registered pharmacist at Walmart or CVS or Walgreens?
But this bill would ensure that they have a prescription, that they would be able to get the medicine through a prescription. And that's why I say it's in a pill form, or I think it's in a pill form. I'm not sure if it's liquid or not, but I know it's in a pill form.
Now, how should the state take advantage, Councilwoman, of any tax increases from this medical marijuana bill?
It would be like any other medicine that would be given from a person across the counter.
Why do you think, Councilwoman, you're not in your mind, they didn't just put it on the ballot and let the voters decide this?
I think that the legislatures have gotten all the information, and we're looking at everything. And so I think I don't know if the constituents would have all the information that the legislatures get, but all the briefings that they would be attending, and it's just so much more information that they would have. And I think they can make that decision for the state of South Carolina. And you voted people in, and so you voted them in to make major decisions for you. So I think this is one of those decisions that the legislatures could make based on all this mountains of information that they're receiving about this.
And speaking of information, as you know, earlier this year, South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster actually signed a bill allowing permitless handgun carrying into law. Pardon me, there's a lawnmower going on in the background. And I know he signed a bill, signed into law a bill allowing adults to carry loaded handguns openly with no permit or training. Adults 18 plus who can actually legally possess guns can now openly carry them with no permit or prior training. Do you believe, Councilwoman, that this particular bill affirms the Second Amendment rights rather than the expansions?
Yeah, I believe that the state has passed this constitutional carry bill, and I think this is something that most people can appreciate. It's just staying in line with the Constitution, just like when you talk about the First Amendment, and I know you can appreciate that a lot, that the First Amendment is protected just like the Second Amendment is.
Yes, ma'am. As a footnote, I should say the Bureau of Protective Services, an arm of the South Carolina Department of Public Safety, reminds the public that the passage of the constitutional carry is still illegal under the new law to carry guns in places where you couldn't carry them before, of course, schools, the courthouse, and the state house. Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely. They and I went somewhere yesterday, and people have signs up. People have signs up on their windows of different businesses to let you know if they are going to permit you to bring a weapon into that particular building. But you're right. The schools you're not allowed to bring it into schools. You're not allowed to bring it into hospitals. There are certain places that you still cannot bring the weapon into.
If you were in the State House today, would you actually lift those particular restrictions?
Lift the restrictions of bringing a gun into the school or to the...
Yes, ma'am.
No,
Okay.
no, we're not.
Okay. Do you believe there are still infringements with this particular bill?
Do I? No, I don't think so. No.
Okay. What do you believe, Councilwoman, is actually lost by gaining this permitless carry bill?
What is lost?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't particularly. What I see is a win for the people because we're going by the Constitution. So I see that everybody may not agree with it, but it's within the rights of the Constitution, and the Second Amendment has been protected.
Yes, ma'am. Now, let me ask you this: what other more prohibited locations should have been included in this bill, and what stiffer penalties should have been associated with this bill in your mind?
Well, I really think that they're going back to look at, the legislatures may be going back to look at those things.
Okay.
I know that some of the sheriff departments the sheriffs are going back to speak with them about some of the things that they'd like to see just be a little bit changed, to tweak it just a little bit. And so the sheriff and with the legislatures, they would come up with the information that maybe they didn't catch in their first original bill.
And what is that? What are some of those things that stand out in your mind in which they didn't catch that they should have caught?
Well, I would think that I think that maybe a child care facility should be a place that I'm sure a child care facility should not be a place where a gun is. So, that's maybe one of the places that they would look at. They got the hospitals, they got the schools, maybe college campuses there, but I'm going to allow that the sheriff's department and those individuals go back, since they have done studies on this, they have looked at this, and they're going to be the professionals that catch where they should have maybe caught some places. And once again, I say, Quintin,
yes,
there's a lot of things I do know.
Right.
There's a lot of things I do know.
Right.
But there are some things I'm just going to leave to the professionals
sure.
to come back and tell us where they think that the guns should, where people cannot carry weapons into.
And speaking of studies, Councilwoman, in your particular district or in Dorchester County, in generalities, where have you seen the gun crime decreased in?
Well, fortunately, down into you mean my current district as District 1?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank God we don't have a lot of crime in the western end of the county. So it's not a huge issue down there. It's not even a big issue on that end of the county.
Okay.
And people carry their guns, and they're very respectful of others. They are they are what do you call them? They are citizens that abide by the law.
Law-abiding citizens.
So
yes, ma'am.
even before you had this law in place, you didn't hear of any of the citizens on the western end of the county that were out, causing problems, as you didn't hear of any on in Somerville either. And then there are several of the states that have this law in place, and you don't hear about any issues with this particular law in place. And it's several states that have this law in place. It's over 25 states that have this law in place.
Dorchester County Councilwoman and State House candidate Harriet Holman, thank you for your time. And again, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you, Quintin.
I appreciate it greatly.